Hello and welcome to Business Today Television. I'm Siddharth Zarabi and with me now is GV Prasad, Co-Chairman and Managing Director at Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, a very well-known name in the Indian pharma scene. Welcome once again.
Thank you.
Last year, a bit of our conversation had focused on the aftermath of COVID, but this is not something that we want to discuss. I want to start with the general outlook for the pharma sector this year that you would like to share with our audience.
Yeah. So I certainly feel the pharmaceutical industry in India is very competitive in the global arena. In generics, active ingredients and services, we are certainly on the path to leadership. And I think I am very optimistic about the prospects of our industry.
Okay, the US generic market, which is one of the largest markets for our Indian pharma industry, has seen the price erosion sort of change. The environment has changed. What's your outlook on the US specifically? Because that's very important for our entire sector.
So the US is the largest pharmaceutical market in the world, and hence it is very important strategically. It's driven by price, since the product is sold through distributors, and there will always be this price angle to it. There's no branding, nothing. So the easing of pricing pressure is more linked to the portfolio that Indian companies carry, as well as the fact that some of the companies have exited some of the products where they were losing money. So to that extent, some adjustments are happening, but the fundamental drivers remain price competition for this industry in the US.
Okay. Since you speak about the price competition in the US, how about the domestic market really? And we've seen 9 to 10% growth. Is this where the opportunity lies?
Long term, I think branded markets offer certain protection, stability, and a smooth demand curve. So they are attractive, and rightfully the market values performance in these markets higher than commodity markets. But they have their own challenges also. In the sense, it's a very difficult, highly competitive, many players in the Indian market. But it's still one of the very few markets which is growing at close to double digits in the world, and hence it is an important market.
And that double-digit growth is also visible in many other sectors of the Indian economy, and that's why India continues to be a strong theme here. Supply chain, China, and the shift has been a subject that's been spoken about quite a lot. For the pharma sector, there is a significant dependence. Two parts to my question. Between when we last spoke a year ago and now, how have things changed? Are we sort of more self-reliant? And what's your sense of the PLI scheme and its impact so far?
Yeah. So last time when we spoke, I remember saying that it's not very easy to shift supply chain from China into India. It's not going to happen very rapidly. And I still stand by that. Shift will happen slowly in pharmaceutical industry. Products, advanced intermediates are registered with various countries, and shift is not easy. The other part is China is very competitive. So for us to compete with that kind of pricing strategy and structure, we'll have to become much better. PLI certainly helps mitigate some of that, but in the end, the industry has to become very competitive and be able to take on global competition. At the same time, I must say that China is an important part of the value chain. We can't disregard that, and we can't switch over very fast from there.
Absolutely. It's not a power switch that light on off kind of situation. That can't happen. But and you must have been asked this, and you certainly believe in it. India to be the pharmacy to the world. There are certain sectors where we are very strong, but taking forward, is that something where more work needs to happen? You mentioned industry has to be more competitive. What were you referring to?
I think when you talked about the supply chain, competitiveness is about pricing and cost. So that, I think we have to move up the value chain in terms of capabilities, efficiencies, productivity, all of those. But we also have to improve our quality. Last year has been not so good for the industry in terms of image, but we have to work on it, improve our quality systems, improve our compliance, and really become world standard in terms of quality to, create that brand of Indian pharma as pharmacy to the world. certainly in API, active ingredients, and generics, we are a global force. We are also an emerging force in services, manufacturing and research services. The next horizon for the Indian industry is, innovation, and that is something a little away today. But that's also something we should not rule out, and Indian industry should become.
It's little away because of the investment that is required, and that sort of benchmark keeps going up in some ways.
It's not just the investment; it's also the uncertainty. Innovation also requires many factors like deep science, an ecosystem of
Research,
researchers,
universities,
private funding for pipelines.
doctoral, postdoctoral students putting in, doing great groundbreaking work. That leads me to the larger part of R&D. Clearly, that's a sector where whatever you do is never going to be enough.
Yeah.
Are we doing enough right now?
So, most of our Indian companies are generic companies. The generic industry structure is that you have large number of small bets in the portfolio. So any product failure won't hurt you much. The innovation
spread the
industry,
risk across.
the innovation industry is a very different industry. It's very high investment, very big bets on a small number of products. And then the risk of failure is also there. So that balancing that is something we haven't found an easy way of doing it. The other thing is Indian companies are valued for profit. Our multiple is PE, earnings, PE is based on earnings.
And that's what the markets will be waiting for from your side very soon.
So they want earnings, continued earnings growth, and that's how they value us. There's no value for pipeline of innovative
something that might give a return 10 years later
might not,
or may not.
So that is why we find it's a little challenging to invest a lot in innovation. Having said that, Dr. Reddy's has started looking at innovation very seriously through a collaborative approach. We are bringing in innovations from all over the world into India first and then emerging markets. We'll also try to share risk reward and build a portfolio, but that's a bit away, maybe in the medium to long term.
Absolutely. With COVID, a lot of our viewers who may not understand the intricacies, they would perhaps want to ask you that, listen, so much vaccine development happened in India, and there was a collaborative effort. There was also a homegrown effort. What lessons has that taught, if at all, to the wider pharma industry?
So one thing, if a country and its industry decides to do something, we can do wonders. We can shorten the development time frame. We can simplify regulation. We can work together to create innovative products. And I think we can do it at a much faster pace than we would normally do. I think that is the biggest takeaway for me from the COVID experience of developing the vaccine, looking at bringing products into India and working collaboratively, not just with the government and the regulator, but also internationally with the innovator companies. So I think the lesson is working closely with the regulator. Government should become a much better collaborator with industry. Industry must also think of the broader need for the country and collaborate globally.
You briefly touched upon it, but I want you to tell our viewers within the space and especially newer things, what is exciting you the most these days? What do you read up? What do you think is the next frontier?
I think therapies are changing dramatically. There are 3 areas I would highlight. One is a new class of drugs for diabetes and obesity with unprecedented rates of efficacy. Then the science of biology is evolving very rapidly and moving from small molecules to large molecules, peptides, large molecules, and then gene therapy and cell therapies. And there also the efficacy is, of course it's very expensive, but the efficacy is something miraculous. It's very good. So this is the second exciting thing. The third thing is the new tools that people are talking about and industry is learning to use about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and using data to be able to become much more productive in R&D is the third exciting factor. These are the 3 things I'm excited by.
I want to ask you about diabetes because Business Today recently wrote, and so many other stories have emerged where certain class of medicines are now being more seen as weight loss drugs. Uh, how is that space emerging?
I think it's the weight loss seen in these drugs, Ozempic, Wegovy, and the Lilly product, is just miraculous. We never saw that level of weight reduction with a medicine, and I think it's a very great development for people who are prone to putting on weight or diabetic in nature. And I think so far the side effects are also not very serious. So I'm very optimistic that this new class of products called GLP-1 agonists are going to make a big difference.
One of the concerns, Mr. Prasad, that's been reported about is, and you touched upon it, side effects and framework for utilization, because we found out that they're being imported off sort of from
Compounded,
the
imported.
grey market and all kinds of, and people are basically trying it out. Is that safe? Because I think there's a way, and people don't come out and talk about it, but very clearly something's happening.
Yeah, I think that's the risk of this product. And I think the regulator and the companies, pharmaceutical companies which are launching this product, should work together to, ensure that these drugs are taken under proper medical supervision, and ensure that every drug has side effects. And if they're misused, it's not good for the people.
Is there a need for any sort of additional protocols in this regard? Because broad frameworks exist.
The trials were very successful, but any prescription medicine should be taken under the supervision of a medical doctor.
Why I'm continue to persist on this topic is because we are the diabetes capital of the world, and frankly, if that is taken care of, and if weight loss is a added benefit, that would be right. But
weight loss is beneficial in many ways, not just for diabetes, for cardiovascular risk, for many things,
and subsequent complications that occur. Yes.
So hypertension, all of this, you get relief from that if you lose your weight.
Do you have a sense of how big this opportunity is in terms of these specific drugs?
I think it's going to be massive. Novo itself, I think people are talking about a $20 billion revenue from this drug alone.
And does this interest your company separately?
We being a generic company, we will always follow what sells as a brand. We will make equivalent versions and launch them upon patent expiry.
Okay, so that's still some time away.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Prasad, that's a very important bit to end our short conversation here from the studio at the World Economic Forum. If you've been, thank you very much for watching. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.